I used to walk through a place what we call huacas. Huaca in Quechua means a place where the spirit live. Basically, it was a cemetery. And I remember coming to see my grandma, and my grandma said, "Well, no, let me blow you 3 times." And I was like,
yeah.
And to me, I registered that as normal.
We live in a time when the old maps seem to be failing. There's a deep collective ache to learn another way to live with one another. You just heard a slice of what's to come in today's conversation. Welcome. I'm David Achata. As an executive coach and author, I've spent my career helping people navigate change. But to go forward, we often have to look back. I created this season to explore how Indigenous wisdom can help us grow into the people our future needs. And whether you're looking for personal healing, better leadership, a deeper faith, or a new way to dream, I'm glad you're here. We're widening this circle this season to rediscover what it means to walk in a good way. So welcome to the How People Grow podcast season 6. Today, my guest is Lorena Saavedra Smith. And I'm going to have Lorena introduce herself shortly. But before I do, I want to tell you, Lorena is a new friend. She is a Peruvian friend. And I'm excited to have her share with us today about her new book, Awaken Your Roots, but also about her own healing journey and how we can get in touch with our ethnicity, with our DNA, but also about what Indigenous wisdom she has learned on her journey that could help us today. So Lorena, thanks for being here, and tell us who you are.
David, besides my friend, you're like my mi hermano. We talk about it, early on.
Yeah.
My brother, and that's how we refer to each other in different ways, in different parts of Peru, brother and sister. So you're my brother, and I'm so happy to be here. And my name is Lorena Saavedra, and I married a person from the US, and I adopted a Smith because I knew it will open so many doors for me. But I'm Peruvian born and raised, and I'm an eco-psychologist and a writer. My recent book is Awaken Your Roots, and I talk in the book about my story on the way that I was able to re-engage with the ancestral wisdom of the Andean people, and the way that support me as an immigrant to the US. And my work is dedicated to women, especially women who are part of the diaspora, who happen to be alternating from environment to environment, and many of them very successful externally, very successful in the world, but feeling broken inside. So I support them to reconnect with themselves through nature and through their own ways of adapting into this new environment without taking parts of who they are away. If anything, I support them to come together and live a very rooted life.
Thank you for that. You said a couple of things that are resonating with me. One of the reasons I found you, my father is from the Andes. And so I found you through, I think it might have been the Sounds True podcast. Maybe that's how I found you. And as I listened, I thought, I have to know this person. And when I saw your biography, I wondered, what is an eco-psychologist?
Yeah. So eco-psychology is a new, I wouldn't say new because it's not new. I think you have like maybe 50 years, and in existence. And it's a practice where it incorporates psychology and ecology. And when I decided that I was going to do this for living, I knew that I have to have a framework that supports me on how to communicate with others about my discoveries into my own pilgrimage. I call it pilgrimage of addressing emotional wounding and recuperating from using nature. So eco-psychology is a body of work that allows me to do that. But in the essence, the message is that the natural world is precisely the way is we adapt to the natural world and also show us how we can incorporate, how we are part of it. And when the natural world is suffering or is we are also suffering. When the natural world is going through these cycles, we are also get reflected on those cycles. So to me, that along with my studies in Pacha Philosophy gave me a beautiful framework to support others into, that we are part of nature. Let's do this work together.
And you're dropping all these really wonderful words that I want to just keep asking about. I think that if I just asked you about the words you use, we would have an entire interview. Because you talked about, now we've been touching on eco-psychology, but now you're mentioning Pacha Philosophy. So what is Pacha Philosophy?
Well, so Pacha Philosophy is, again, it's a framework, but it's more than that. It's a way of living. And this way of living is found in the entire Andean region. It doesn't belong to one particular area, one particular group of people, one particular community. I found it fascinating that in its foundation is very, I would say, simple for people to understand, but it gets very complex as you move it from region to region. And on its essence, Pacha philosophers say that we are nature in itself. And our responsibility as humans is to be the caretakers of nature. Because when we do fulfill our role in in this cycle of existence, nature will continue providing for us. But if we do not, things will happen.
So that is Pacha Philosophy.
In my own terms, that is Pacha Philosophy.
Okay, I'm going to keep going with the words.
Sure.
What does the word Pacha mean?
So again, Pacha is a term that comes from Quechua, which is one of the many languages that is still speaking in the Andean region. And Pacha means everything that is in existence and beyond. It's a very complex word, very complex. In simple terms, I will say that it, not because it's simple for people to understand it, but it's simple for me to explain it. Everything that is regulated in the seen and the unseen world.
And that's Pacha. Pacha is the idea that everything in the seen and unseen world is connected.
Yes.
Okay, I love it.
The visible and the no visible, right? Yes.
So, when I prepare for these interviews, I have so many questions to ask. And it seems that often it's more appropriate before the questions even come up that have been prepared to learn more of the story of the person I'm talking to.
Sure.
And so, will you share some of your story that led you to this work today, leaving Peru, coming to the United States, going back to Peru, some of the teachers you learned from, what you learned, how it transformed you. There's so many twists and turns. I would love for you to share what you think is appropriate to help us understand your background that led you to your work today.
Yeah, when I look back, and I do that very often, I'm very curious of my own story too, and I sometimes I feel like I need to, take one step back to see what had happened and the way that my work has unfolded through the years is fascinating. uh, so I was born and raised in Peru, and I grew up in Lima until my early 20s. In Lima back then in the 80s, and I led your audience to do the research of what happened in Lima during the 80s, but it wasn't as pleasant. There was a lot of violence. There was this seated violence, and it was time from when I finished school, like I knew that I wanted to go do something else. And I decided to immigrate like many people for many reasons. And one of them, my main reason was to study. So I want to come abroad and learn some English because I knew English would open the doors for me. And when I got the scholarship to come over here to the States, I fall in love with the States. Of course, the image that we have been getting in the narrative of the United States back in the 80s and 90s, it was awesome. You come to a place where you can be yourself. Not like I wasn't in Peru, but it was different. It was a different kind of liberty. It was a different kind of freedom.
Yeah.
A freedom from all the things that I was experiencing by growing up. And then things happened, like many other immigrants. I went through the cycle of being suffering immigration trauma. And in that time, I knew that I needed something because the level of anxiety and depression I was experiencing, it was very unmanageable. So I got involved into finding ways to address this, not through medication, because I was a little relentless about taking some medication, although I ended up taking it for a few months. But then I decided to move into a more natural way of doing it. And somatic practices came into my path. So I experienced everything in the table, from dancing, ecstatic dancing, to Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, everything in between. And that became my life. My life away from my other life, because now I was a young professional who needed to sustain myself, but I was doing pretty good. Externally, I was doing pretty good. Internally, not so much. I was struggling big time, big time. And that took me to realize that something needed to happen. Again, I found myself reoriented. And I think the reorienting portion is what led me to the book later on. And I talked very, very open about the importance of orienting ourselves in different cycles that we're living in our actual life. So I decided to invest more time into these ways of discovering how my body holds stress, how my body holds anxiety, how my body holds fear. And that's when I decided that this feels good. So for many years I was into the somatic work. Years passed, and although I will say that I reached a pinnacle in my career, something started bothering me again. It wasn't. Yes, it was I was getting stable I was able to manage my anxiety. I was able to manage my stress. I was able to manage my emotional life, but there was something still missing. And it was the fact that I did not make my work on addressing the trauma that I left when I left Peru, and the trauma that you're experiencing in the first 4 years of me being in the States.
So that's what I was going to ask you about. So you're taking us on this journey, and you mentioned this internal struggle and the trauma that you brought with you and the trauma that you experienced here.
Mm-hmm.
Let us in a little bit on what was imprinted on you from your life that you left behind, but then also was perhaps magnified by some of the experiences you had when you came to the States.
That's a great question. So I didn't know it then. Again, making back, detaching myself from my life to see it from a different place. I realized that what I was experiencing, and this I didn't find it years later, but what I was experiencing, or what I experienced then, was that I left a situation where in Peru felt unsafe. There was a lot of unsafe situation there. And I'm not saying that my family in itself, my inner circle in itself was unsafe. Years later, I understood that this sentiment and this emotion and what it was my body feeling in itself about feeling safe was not even from my story. I was carrying this feeling of being unsafe from way back.
Okay.
From way back.
Yeah. Huh.
So when I moved to the States and I got into, I was by myself with no family, and I have to push myself like many immigrants, and I call replanted, right? And many replanted people, we have to just push ourselves forward. And in that pushing forward, we detach. We don't get too deep into how I'm feeling, right? We don't do that. We don't have we don't have the ability sometimes to even do this type of work until our body settles in a particular cycle. So when life happens and I was able to start digging deeper into it, I realized that what I was experiencing, it was not just my own pain and suffering and the results of unsafety situations, but it was more than that. And that's when I start asking questions. It's like, where is this? First of all, why am I experiencing and I'm feeling this way for something that I never experienced? I started feeling really like emotionally, not only emotionally, physically sick. About, and when I did my own self inquiry work, things start coming up, images start coming up, and those images are like, wait a second, am I thinking about this? Am I dreaming about it? Is this happened to me? Did this happen to me that I don't remember? And boom, I remember stories that I heard, right? And closed doors from family. And I said, no, I need to start asking questions. And I sat with one of my elders and I started questioning. I was like, what's happening? And it was up to today, it feels fascinating. It's like, how in the world I am experiencing, my body physically is going through this, that I have never physically been through it. So I started making a research deeper and deeper and deeper to realize that, here we go, intergenerational trauma. That gave me a language for what I was experiencing. I wasn't going crazy, right? I was not going crazy because for many years I was like, what is happening? And then I knew that, I would say I knew, but it's not true. And then I wish I can take credit for that, but I can't. In my line of work, I work with a lot of people in leadership roles who were experiencing like this fragmentation. And one of my services was to accompany them into the spiritual retreats. And here I am in El Valle Sagrado, in the Sacred Valley, one of the most iconic, mystical places on earth, not just because it's Peru, but because it's true, with this group of beautiful women, all of them professional. It was amazing. And then I was surrounded by these humongous mountains, beautiful, majestic mountains. I got out of my room very early in the morning, and I felt it, David, right in my heart. I felt it. You know, this sentiment of like, what? This is, you're doing this work with these people, you're supporting them, but what about the work that we are asking you to do?
We. And
Yes.
we, who is we that's asking you to do this work?
And so that's when I'm like, wait a second, am I going crazy again? Right? Like am I listening, and am I listening voices? My human mind was like, no, this is not, you know, I'm creating, this is not true. And then I see a colibri, I see a hummingbird.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed everything.
Mm.
Because when I grew up very close to my two grandmothers. I consider them my first teachers in life, period. I love my mother to death, but my mother was not available because she was working. So we were under the care of my grandmothers. So my grandmother always, one of my grandmothers always say that when the colibri shows up, is the upper world talking to you. And you need to listen to the messages.
Wow. So when you see this hummingbird, this is coming back to you. And I can tell even today, listening to you, it's still so powerful and emotionally with you. And one of the reasons I wanted to ask you these questions, because I know there's more to the story still, but as we're laying this foundation, is in the West, we don't have these types of teachings and thinking. Our native North American brothers and sisters do. Our Central American brothers and sisters do. But our European Western brothers and sisters don't always have this type of teaching that's been given to them. And so you had some foundation of this you were returning to, and this hummingbird comes, and you know there's something about the wisdom of my ancestors here I need to tap into. And so what did you do with that from that moment?
Well, from the moment I came back, you know, we finished the retreat. Everything was amazing. The women, obviously, in these type of retreats, I wish I can take the credit, but I can't. You know, I do my work as a facilitator, but in reality, people get in return what they put in. And so I would say 90% of the people, they return change people, right? They're like, we're gonna do, there's an after and before and after. So that happened to me too that day. That was a before and after. And that's when I'm like, well, I need to start learning about what did my grandma say when the hummingbird showed up. What does that mean? Now I wanna frame something here and put people in again, orient them, right, with my story, help them to like get with me on it. I grew up doing these things. This is not new for me. The blessings, the calling the winds and using agua florida and using incense and palo santo, that is not new for me. I grew up with that. In both sides of my family, I have grown with that. I have grown and seen my grandmothers healing with like, oh, something you bothers, take this tea, or you, or I vividly remember my grandma used to have we used to live very close to each other, and I used to walk through a place what we call huacas. Huaca in Quechua means a place where the spirit live. Basically, it was a cemetery, right? A cemetery, a cemetery for an ancient civilization. And I used to walk every day, not every day, but on my way from where to another place. And I remember coming to see my grandma, and my grandma said, "Well, no, let me blow you 3 times." And I was like,
Yeah.
And to me, I registered that as normal. Here I am, moving out of Peru, coming into New York City, doing my thing as a young professional, opening business, having people, being professional, making money, and boom, these messages again come back. And I see the hummingbird. It's like, wait, there's more than that. There's something else in here that it's time for me to start like digging into it, because I knew back in my heart that if I do not, then it will continue hunting me until I settle and say it's time for me to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Do in my own way, definitely.
So, and to me meant to start, first of all, learning about Pacha philosophy. I start putting my hands on books and white paper and researching and reading from one direction and another direction, and one people saying one thing and the other person saying another thing, and they contradict each other. And I was like, wait a second. And most of them, this is what I think is important. The majority of the white paper and the research was based from people who have an archaeology or anthropology point of view, and they were in academia, and not many of them were people who represented the Andean community. So there were either professors, or there were people who were doing this type of work that have no ties to the Andean world.
Right.
And that's the contradiction, because you talk about the Western mind. So that's exactly what I saw, the friction. So it's like, okay, I learned as much as I could with my mind, right? So my logic mind could have a structure. And then I was like, this is not just, this is good because I have a good foundation, but I have to go deeper into it. And this is when I decided to do my groundwork.
Amazing. There's so much work that you've done. So how do you sum up for us the personal work that you did that then eventually brought you back to become the person that you are today? Because you're mentioning so many strange things to many of our listeners. Pilgrimage, you're mentioning, I want to hear about. You're mentioning walking through cemeteries and being aware of your ancestors and your grandmother blowing on you. You're mentioning plants. You're mentioning all these things. And this, for some people, for our listeners, you're listening into someone who's done years and years and years and years of work. And it can be overwhelming thinking, how on earth can I do any of these things? This is so much work.
Yeah.
But the answer is you did one thing at a time. And so you went on a pilgrimage. Where did you go and what happened?
Well, I say that my life had become a pilgrimage.
Oh.
But which is beautiful, right? It was a pilgrimage because I wanted to get a place, but I didn't know where the place is. I'm still in a pilgrimage. I know that I have tapped into some places where I can rest. Right? And Andean philosophy talk about resting places, or tambos is called in Quechua, a place where you go and you sit and you observe, right? Most of those tambos are in the altitude of the mountains, and you observe where you came from and where you're going. So, and through my pilgrimage, I have these little temples, these little places where I sit down and just digest everything. So to summarize, I think I'm still, I'm like, I'm nature, right? Nature, it have not finished. So I am, I wish I can say I'm done, but I can't, but I'm not. And I have to attribute a lot to the freedom I felt to be who I am from my family.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Although they didn't understand at the beginning, they have never understand my whole process. Nor I don't think it's people are is intended to understand anybody's pilgrimage, because our personal pilgrimage are ours for us to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it feels good when you have the support.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Are you a fan of the Star Wars movies? Do you ever watch those?
Of course.
Of course. Okay. So, Joseph Campbell in his work talks about the hero's journey,
Mm-hmm.
and we eventually find ourselves in the deep cave of despair where we meet a teacher and we find the magical elixir. And, in Star Wars, that's kind of what happens to Luke Skywalker when he's in that swamp, and he meets Yoda. He doesn't know it's Yoda at first. It's so funny. And I find that the framework for that story really is true for so many of us. And as much as I would love to hear every step of the journey, and I hope that the two of us will share those stories, just for the sake of time, will you continue to go deeper into your journeys with us and maybe describe, where was your cave?
Oof.
And who was your teacher? And what was your elixir? And I want to bring us back to current day eventually with your works. I want people to hear about the wonderful book that you've written, the model that you've created, the work that you do. But I think that understanding these foundational things are so critical. And so will you take us to the cave of your pilgrimages?
Yes. And I could stay in my tambo until life said, God said, can come. Thank you for your services. It's time to go.
Thank you for your services.
I could have. And the tambo that I experienced 10 years ago, 15 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. Where I found my like, oh, this is a good place to be. But no, I'm conscious about continuously finding this cycle. And so, or being in the cycle. And so, answering to your question about the deeper struggles, I have many, but one of the that comes to mind right now is when I find out by myself in a hospital, and early on when I moved to the States, and I was in a hospital, nobody around, no family, no money. I like, oh my God, I'm literally by myself in this country.
Yeah.
So how can I put myself, I have to become reliable for myself. That created a new persona. And I'm telling you this because with that persona, I grew up with that persona, and that persona went into very severe caves.
Yeah.
And the way that I was able to pull myself back up with the strength of community, and it was related to my spiritual journey, and I have beautiful people who support me that. But as I grew up within this new persona, the strong one, right? I cave into different places, and that's when I knew that I was not going to be able to do it alone again. But it was all the things we needed. I needed all the things. And one of the things was to recognize that all the work that I had done was not pulling me away from this deep sticky sensation of me not feeling that I was enough, that I was, something was broken in myself, in me, within me, that was like fragmented. And the frameworks, the wisdom of Pacha philosophy gave me that. And many of my and I say many because I have countless times and countless hours sitting with elders from different communities, not only under the Andean region, but in Central America too, and here in North America as well. Healing or hearing the way that they recuperate their ways of healing gave me everything that I needed. So I wish I can tell you that it was one occasion and this is how I got out, but it was, I tap into many things. I tap into many things, and little by little, I start bringing my soul back, because that's exactly what it happened when I feel fragmented. It's not just a situation under the lens of Pacha philosophy. The fear, the fragment that we feel creates this fragmentation where our soul moves and goes and get out of ourselves. So my intention with all this, a small little pilgrimage I have done, was little by little to bring back my soul to me.
I love what you're describing, even your hand gestures. It's like you're pulling a rope or a thread. You're bringing it back in you on these journeys that you're going on. And
the soul goes on and off. And this is through the lens of Pacha philosophy.
Yeah. What does that mean?
So and I mentioned this in the book, by the way, right? So our responsibility as humans in this world is to be a good caretakers of nature. But we cannot, I wouldn't say we cannot, but it's good for us to understand that we are multidimensional beings, and we have our body physically cannot fragmentate, but in the unseen realm, in the spiritual realm, our spiritual body fragmented, and the fragmented through an Andean philosophy, we call it susto, or frightening. And I put that one-on-one when I started doing my work as in psychology. It was like, oh, this is trauma. Okay, so now I can put together. So when trauma occurred, my soul goes out. My responsibility, accepted responsibility, because this is something you really want to do, this type of work, is to little by little bring your soul back home, back to the body. Because when we are in the body, means that I will take my full responsibility to be a good caretaker of nature as well. So everything is part of, nothing comes secluded. Everything is we fulfilling pieces and different parts in this cycle of life.
What you're describing about bringing your soul back, I think many people, myself included, can identify with. Like, I've become this person, this stuff has happened to me, I've lost a part of myself. We use that language. And the journey that you've gone on is a reweaving, bringing it back together. And I want to bring us to this work that you've just produced, which I have been reading, and it's written for women, but I think that men should read it. It's very relatable for me as I read this book. And the book is called Awaken Your Roots, Reclaim Your Ancestry, Sovereignty by Heeding the Jaguar's Call. And I would love for you to take us on the journey through your book. Why have you written? What is there? There's so many questions I'm putting into one question here. And what is the Jaguar's Call? So take us on the book journey and explain some of these things to us.
Okay, so again, I was plateau on my little tumble, observing what I have done in life, and I was going through so much. Also, I was going through some deep. I was caving into so many things. The memory and the image of the Jaguar came into mind. Don't ask me why. I have some experience with plant medicine in the past, and I knew exactly what that could. And by then, I already had the knowledge about Pacha Philosophy, and the Jaguar came in. And then when I started digging into it, the Jaguar represents, in many traditions around South America and Mesoamerica, represents this entity that have the potential to change the trajectory of somebody's life. And the Jaguar in itself is the guardian of the living world. So when I saw the Jaguar in this vision, I remember I was running and I saw the Jaguar of this vision. I was like, in this vision, I was like, oh my God, the Jaguar is calling. And to me, that translated into, it's a call that I need to take, because in the Jaguar represented nature in the natural world, and ancestry included into it. So when I step back again and I start doing this self-inquiry about what that means, it's like, oh, I need to start threading everything that I have learned into something that people can relate to. And the book started the book started it as a manual for me and my clients, and it turned out into be this beautiful book that it won an award, and I ended up publishing with Macmillan. So the book is with women like myself in mind, including the poetry. But I have people, including my husband, who was one of the beta readers. Now, granted, my husband is a 30-year Navy veteran who have a very strong set ways of seeing life. And I let your readers to decide how does that look like. But when he read it, he came to me and he said, and we're going to Ireland. And next time that we're going to Ireland, and I need to find out where I come from.
Yes.
And to me, feel like, oh, good. Okay, so the book is working.
Yeah.
The book is working, right? So that's kind of like my intention for the book is. For people, first of all, for people to feel that they are hold in a sweet environment, the same way that I felt when the colibri and the hummingbird came to talk to me.
Yeah.
And I weave a lot of Quechua words, and it's a journey. It's for sure a journey, but it's a journey, but at the same time is a place for people to go deeper and to find out their own ways of doing things. Because I am not telling people for them to practice Pacha philosophies. They're not. I mean, they could if they want to, but the intention and the urgency of this type of work is to validate that there are ancient traditions who hold so much wisdom that if we, the heirs of those traditions, are not taking our responsibility to embrace them, they will get lost.
Yeah.
And we need all that type of medicine more than ever nowadays.
We're totally off script. I have all these questions for you. And what we're talking about is touching on it, but I think what we're talking about is a little better. So I want to get your perspective on, well, let's talk about your husband for a minute. He reads your book and he says, I think we need to go to Ireland. So
we went.
Oh, good. And I want to hear about it. Okay. I want to hear, because I would love to get your take on why is it that those of us who have brown skin or are from other countries have an opportunity that's somewhat a little easier to dig into our roots versus those other of our fellow citizens in the United States and other Western countries, but in the United States in particular, who have never really had to think about their roots. Why do you think it's easier in some ways for us to figure that out, and why is it harder for them in some ways to figure that out?
You're making me think, and I love it.
Good.
And my spot, and you're making me think at my feet. And what comes to mind, to be honest, is, and this is based on my personal experience and the people that I support and I have supported through the years. Those who have first generation, second generation, and obviously people that still in our birthlands, they're very in touch with culture.
Yeah.
The idea of assimilation haven't come as intensively, right? So they're still in these places, and when I say places, I'm also talking about inner community, small communities, including families and so on. They still carry some of the traditions that have been passed down through generations. Like my abuelita coming and, blowing 3 times on me because I crossed past a cemetery.
Yeah.
So I think that had to do with the way that we human mobilize in different cultures and adapt to the culture that is in I won't say rule, but the general culture, not the general culture, but the culture that is taking the shots.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right?
I would call it the dominant culture.
Yeah, words have a very strong energy, and I'm trying to use as many as words that can trigger people, because so I'm going for what it means more than for what it feels, more than what.
Okay.
Yeah, a dominant culture, but it's like the culture that is and feels entitled to call the shots. And we, people who are under that culture, feel submitted to do that.
Yeah.
So, to your question, I do believe that is because what people people who come from our cultures, traditions, still hold that very dearly. And it's easier for us to remember because it's not like it doesn't take much.
Yeah.
Because I bet you anything, if you start digging it out, not even deep enough, if you go and ask people from your dad's side, things will start awakening. It's just like, what? Okay, how did they used to do that? All right. So it's very in the very front. And I'm not saying that it's better or worse. It just is. It just, we are in a different part of the cycle.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and it's interesting to me listening to you how your husband reads your book and says we need to go because he was wanting to connect with something that he was awakened in him. So what was that trip like, and what came up for your husband who's of Irish descent?
Well, before that, I tell you, we are very outdoorsy people. We love to be in nature, obviously, for the work that I do and just being who I am. So being in nature to me it's like a second thing to do, right? So it's for my husband. But after he finished the book, I remember he had a fishing trip, and he came so excited that day and said, I tripped, and when I was like, how to say it, like casting the I tripped, and I touched the ground, and I say thank you for thank you for letting me be alive, and I'm asking permission for you to give me what I need. And to me it was like, what? Something is happening. It was like, Obviously, I didn't show my excitement as much. Now when he listens to this, he will like, oh my God, you're telling all my stories. But that was the first signal for me to say, wow, this is something. And then we decided to go to the UK, and just to feel him feeling at home was enough for me.
Wow. Beautiful.
He felt like he belonged there.
He did.
Yeah. Like, you know how difficult it is to drive in London?
Yeah.
And from one place to another. I mean, I wouldn't do it because they drive from the other side and there's so many things. I was like, to me was, I mean, sure, if my thinking logical mind will put me in the fact that, oh, he's trained, he knows how, he's a man, he had been trained to do this type of work for many years, and sure, I would justify that. But what I felt was like, this guy knows this area because part of his soul was there way before we arrived together.
Wow, it's so powerful. Yeah, one thing that you've touched on a few times, I want to ask more about. You have mentioned this idea of the soul being fragmented and rewoven and being connected to things that did not happen to you directly, but that perhaps happened to your ancestors. And for many people hearing this, they'll think that is weird.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to say before we keep going with this is just because it's weird doesn't mean it's not true.
All right.
So, what was your journey in learning what you were carrying, and even how can you guide people listening and how they can take that journey of learning what is their soul carrying, and how do you do that kind of healing?
Well, first of all, for those people who are, which we need those people, right? Because we live we are interconnected. So I need the logical mind to find the emotional mind, because otherwise it will not be complete. So
It's good.
just because they think differently doesn't mean that they're wrong. But for those people who they need an explanation of things, luckily nowadays there's a lot of research in epigenetics, and there's a lot of research in intergenerational trauma. So there's just for that, I always encourage people to ease their minds. It's like, this is what you're experiencing, and what I'm saying might not make sense yet, but that doesn't deny, like you say, that is not true.
Right.
So how do I guide people from those stages to now? There are many different ways to do that. The work that I do, and this is why my work is very personalized, and I love it that way. My personal practice and my I would like to say like therapeutic, because it's not therapy. We holding each other's space. It's very individualized. I do have some frameworks that I use, but depending on the person's cycle, where they are, and depending on how they see life, we address and we adjust. So if they are a logical person that needs some explanation, we do some digging in there, right? So this is no woo-woo thing. This is factual. This is factual. And with the searches start with a very simple, I would say simple, but I know for a lot of people, connecting with their family, biological family, can be a very strange thing to do. So I go back, when that happens, I go back to nature. Nature is the record keeper of humanity. So in cases where there is no way, including adopted people, right? So it's like they don't know who they are. They don't know they know where they come from, but they don't know, they don't have any relationship with their biological family. How do you do this type of work? Well, you do a pilgrimage. And no, it's not a pilgrimage. You're going crossing the ocean, the pilgrimage can start very simple in the park near your house. Mm. You go into an state where you want to recollect what happened with the people that is, first of all, with you, right? Where did I feel, where are the times where I feel fragmented? And I start collecting the information through nature. Oh, okay, I went to this place in the mountains and I feel good. That's a good thing. But like my husband, I went to this fishing trip. I tripped and I almost, broke my back. So that is when your nuna or your soul can get out, the susto. So start collecting that information from yourself first. And then if they are willing and they want to and they're ready, we start digging even deeper. Because even if we don't know how our biological family is, we might know our ethnicity.
Right.
So let's start digging there. Mm-hmm. How the people from the place where your body says that you are from used to heal the body, used to heal the soul, used to heal the mind. And let's start digging there. And this is when we start recuperating so many things, so much medicine that is being held by elders within their own rights. But now here comes this person who have the genetic heritage, willing to recuperate that and pass that along.
I think what you're talking about really exemplifies some of what you're sharing about Pacha philosophy and the idea that we're all connected to one another and to nature. Learning to use nature as a way to remember because it remembers. I've done those things where I've gone places to remember things. And I've even been to the far off places like Peru to remember things that even I personally did not live, but yet were lived through my ancestors. And there's so many twists and turns in your story and so many other things I want to ask you about. And one of the things that I think would maybe be a good question for us to spend our last few moments on. You mention in your book about how when we do this work, that you can learn to bring your unique medicine into the world. Will you tell us, what does that mean and how do we tap into our unique medicine?
So I'm going to do it with an example.
Yes.
Because like you said, for the sake of time, otherwise we can just go everywhere.
Yes, we could.
Which I love, by the way.
Me too.
So I had one of my clients. She was a doctor. She's still a doctor, a very renowned doctor. She was a cardiologist, actually.
Okay.
Well into her 50s. So you know that she was she had done a lot. And she was a cardiologist and practicing, and then because she wanted to get out of practice, she started teaching. And I met her right in the time when she didn't know if teaching was what she wants to do, because she was passionate about caring for other people's hearts.
Yeah, right.
Like physically, but it went beyond that when we start working together. So with our work entitled many hours, we record many hours of conversation. We have done pilgrimage together. When I say pilgrimage, I have literally go with her into the park nearby and do some stuff. Like what my grandma used to do, blow me 3 times, and I did all the things with her. All the things.
Oh, you did?
Of course, yeah. That's because that's part of my responsibility. Accepted, right? That I am my job under the lens of my lineage is I am a llamadora. I'm the one who calls back. So that's the way I accept it. So I know how to. I would say I know too, and I don't want to your listeners to know that to might think that, oh, I have it all answers, because I don't. But I do it based on my own personal experience and what I have done with my grandmothers and all the years of practice. So with this lady, she was in a transitional time, and then she said, I asked her, I remember a blind point questions. Tell me, where do you feel more in your skin? And she had she's a doctor, she's a cardiologist, she needs to use her thinking mind for pretty much everything, right?
Right.
And I was like, but don't go there. I want you to tell me, what an element, the element of who you are meets the other element. Meaning when we're walking, when you wind touch the wind and becomes a wind. Once your body, solid, matter, body, walks, and you are literally connecting with the ground and the soil and the land, and you are not separate from it. Tell me, when do you feel like you're most elated? And she said to me, I gotta confess to you, I love to see those kids asking these questions in this school. And she was becoming a mentor too, And she's like, well, maybe you are a teacher.
Huh. Yeah.
And she's like, oh no, I'm not a teacher. I'm, grading and all the stuff that takes a lot of work. I love just to be with younger doctors, because their curiosity gets me going. And that to me was, she found
Beautiful.
it, and she didn't even know it.
Yeah.
That was her medicine. She has put out so many good doctors in the last 10 years who see her as a mentor, as a teacher. And she found a way to came into the world doing what she loved the most, which is still cardiology, but through a different lens. So we all do. To me, there's no doubt that we all have a responsibility to adopt when we're ready. And for me, the time came when the colibri came, right? And it's like, you need to start listening. And when I said with one of my elders in one of the pilgrimage in Peru, I received not received because I already knew it that I had it, but they did some rituals, and I said, wow, it feels so good when I can. And this might sound this is the woo-woo part for your listeners. When I really can see the fragmentation of people. When I can see their souls are way far away, but their souls are willing, wanting, waiting to come back home.
And you can see that.
Yeah, trust me, it's a blessing, and not so much sometimes.
Yeah. Wow. Lorena, this conversation has been so rich. I want to keep it going, so we'll do this again. And as we finish today, what encouragement, what wisdom would you like to bring to our listeners who want to reweave their souls? What wisdom from the Andean highlands, from Pacha Philosophy, can you bring to help people find that tool, that practice they need to reweave their souls?
Go back to nature. Listen to the winds. If your body and your soul is telling you to whistle to the pajaritos, to the birds, do it. If you want to say goodbye, because I live in an area here in Northern Virginia where we have a lot of geese coming, migrating, and I hear the sound, and I say goodbye. See you. Do it.
Yes.
If you feel that you need to go outside and walk, and your bare feet touch the ground, do it. Go back to nature. This is simple as that, but so profound. And be attentive of your fire too. What ignites your life? And the water too. So in other words, leaning towards the non-understanding mind that you, David, me, Lorena, and you, each of you listeners, are part of something that we cannot understand with our mind, but we feel with our body.
Thank you for that. If people want to find you and talk to you more, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, through my book for sure, and I appreciate it for all of them who are already engaging with that. And the book is available in all the bookstores. And through my social media, I'm very often in social media putting some information there, new material for people to get to know me a little better. And I do have an offering that it have become something that started as a necessity for me, and it have grown into something very beautiful. I hold the space for women in a women's group, and the next edition it starts in April. So
people can join that.
Yes, and I normally ask, for people who are very interested in doing this job to gather with me first to see if this group is actually for them.
Lorena, my Peruvian sister.
Sí, amigo, primo, hermano.
Thank you for being here. Once the soul begins to reweave itself and we discover our medicine, it naturally seeks a voice. But how do we express that with passion and purpose? Next week, Damon Neeson joins the show. Damon is Pomo and Yuki Indian with ties to the Round Valley Reservation in Northern California. And he's going to join us to discuss the vital role of singing and ceremony in keeping our spirits and our communities alive. So come back next week. Episodes release at 6 Eastern on Mondays. And as usual, if this has been helpful to you, go check us out on Substack, drop us a couple bucks a month, and you can participate in a monthly conversation on these subjects. Or leave us a review. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week.
Said I will fly with you. Won't you fly with me over the hills and plains on the wind of a prophecy? Yes, I will fly.